The gallery lights hummed softly as Emily wiped the last fingerprints from the glass doors, her shoulders heavy from another double shift. She was about to wheel her cart away when a burst of applause echoed from the main hall. A new painting had just been unveiled. Bold reds, frantic strokes, layers of color that seemed to tremble under the spotlight. Emily froze. Something inside her chest tightened. That chaotic swirl of colors, she had seen it before. She stepped closer, breath uneven, her fingers brushing the air as if afraid to touch the memory rising through her bones. The wealthy patrons admired the piece, calling it raw genius. But Emily's eyes drifted to the faded initial in the corner, small, uneven, shaky, the kind a forgotten child might write. A chill ran up her spine. She whispered almost to herself, "I painted it when I was 6. And in that moment, the entire room fell silent. What followed would pull her into a life-changing story, one involving a hidden past, a stolen childhood artwork, a gallery owner caught between truth and reputation, and a former volunteer carrying years of guilt. As Emily confronts the painting that changed her life forever, she must face what was taken from her and what she is finally ready to reclaim. Before we begin this emotional story, tell us in the comments from which city you are watching, and don't forget to leave your like to keep following us. The Manhattan Contemporary Arts Gallery felt unusually still that evening. Soft lighting washed over the glossy floor, reflecting streaks of red, blue, and gold from the abstract paintings that lined the walls. Emily moved quietly between them, pushing her cleaning cart with the same careful steps she had taken every night for the past year. Her apron was creased from long hours, and her sleeves were rolled neatly, the way the orphanage had taught her. Neatness first, invisibility second. She had almost finished her shift when the murmurs began near the center of the main room. A cluster of wealthy patrons gathered around a newly unveiled painting. Their voices blended in a mix of admiration and pretense. Emily didn't intend to look. She never did. But a flash of swirling red caught her peripheral vision, tugging at something deep in her chest. She lifted her eyes. Her breath stuttered. The canvas, childish yet strangely expressive, felt like a memory reaching through time. Uneven circles, clumsy strokes, colors layered with the uncertainty of small hands. Emily stepped closer, forgetting the rules, forgetting herself. The gallery owner noticed her movement and smirked. "Careful, miss," he said lightly, assuming she'd wandered too close. Emily didn't hear him. Her gaze locked on the tiny, faded initial in the corner, a shaky E not fully formed, written by a child who didn't yet know her own name would matter. I know this," she murmured. A few guests turned. The owner raised a brow. "What was that?" Her voice thinned, barely there. "I painted it." Laughter fluttered across the group, polite, dismissive, amused. Emily didn't move. She couldn't. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, as if the walls themselves leaned in to listen. The owner folded his arms. Impossible. Emily swallowed, the old ache rising. Rooms with peeling paint, cold winters, teachers who rotated too often to remember her face. And the one time someone handed her paints and said, "Try." Her voice cracked softly. "I painted it when I was 6. The laughter died. A frozen silence settled around her, as though the painting itself waited for what she would say next. The gallery owner, Michael Harrington, stepped closer with a crisp, rehearsed smile, the kind he used on eccentric buyers and confused tourists. But as he studied Emily's face, the smile wavered. She wasn't joking. Her eyes weren't seeking attention. They were searching for something else, something painfully familiar to anyone who had ever lost a piece of their past. He cleared his throat. "Miss, this painting was acquired from a private collector, a very reputable one." Emily's fingers curled around the edge of her cart, whitening her knuckles. "Where was it before that?" Michael hesitated, surprised by the tremor in her voice. Her uniform, her tired posture, the faint smell of cleaning solution clinging to her, none of it matched the certainty in her eyes. A few patrons watched closely, amused, waiting for the spectacle to continue. "I'm afraid that information is not for public. I remember the window," Emily whispered, cutting him off. "The one at the orphanage in Queens. The light came in only in the afternoons. That's why the colors look like sunset, not morning." A hush rippled through the room again. One woman's expression softened, her curiosity overtaking her judgment. Michael blinked, taken off guard. What orphanage? Emily's throat tightened. She hadn't spoken about that place in years. Talking about it felt like reopening a room she'd locked from the inside. "The St. Adelaide home," she said. "They gave us scraps of paper, old brushes, sometimes leftover paint from donation drives. I used red too much because it was the only color we had plenty of." Her voice thinned, fragile but unwavering. "I know this painting. I feel it." Michael's confidence faltered. His gaze drifted to the initial on the canvas, one he had never truly examined. He exhaled slowly, something shifting beneath his polished exterior. He turned to the remaining guests. "If you'll excuse us." As they drifted away, whispering, Michael faced her again, arms no longer crossed. "Emily," he said gently, testing the name on his tongue, "if what you're saying is true, then we'll need to talk somewhere more private." Emily felt the room tilt, not from fear, but from the sudden possibility that she hadn't imagined her own past. She nodded slowly, her pulse echoing in her ears as he motioned her toward a quiet office at the back of the gallery. Michael's office was small compared to the grandeur of the gallery, but it felt strangely intimate, with warm lamps and shelves filled with art books arranged by color rather than subject. Emily stood just inside the doorway, hands clasped in front of her, unsure whether she should sit or wait for permission. Years of being the invisible one had taught her to read cues before making a move. Michael gestured gently toward a chair. "Please." She obeyed, easing down slowly as if the fabric were too delicate for her uniform. He closed the door, then crossed his arms, not defensively, but thoughtfully. "Tell me again," he said, settling opposite her. "Everything you remember." Emily stared at her own hands for a moment. Her fingers still carried faint traces of the cleaning chemicals she used every night. But beneath the smell of disinfectant, beneath the exhaustion, another scent flickered. Acrylic paint drying under weak sunlight. "I was 6, she began softly. "Maybe 7. I never knew my exact birthday there, they estimated." She inhaled, steadying herself. "The orphanage had this old art closet. Most of the supplies were leftovers, almost trash. But to us it was—" She stopped, her throat tightening. "It was the only place where you could make something that felt like yours." Michael listened, eyes narrowing with genuine interest. "I painted that one after a storm," she continued. "I remember because water came in through the cracked window and smudged my first layer. I tried again. The red circles. That was me trying to paint noise. The kind that fills your chest when you don't know if someone will ever come for you." He swallowed. "Emily, the collector who sold this piece claimed it came from a private estate. He paid almost nothing for it. He told me it was a curiosity. Nothing more." Her lips parted in disbelief. "It wasn't supposed to leave the orphanage. I left a box there when I was moved to another home. My drawings, they were all I had." Michael exhaled slowly, a troubled look settling across his face. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "If your story checks out, this isn't just a painting someone stumbled on. It may have been stolen or worse, sold without anyone caring who created it." Emily's heartbeat stumbled. "What happens now?" Michael stood, thoughtful, conflicted. "Now," he said quietly, "we find out the truth." But before he could speak again, a soft knock echoed at the door, hesitant, urgent, interrupting whatever he was about to reveal. The door opened just a crack, enough for a young man from the gallery staff to peer inside. His cheeks were flushed, as though he had rushed down the hallway. "Mr. Harrington," he said in a low voice, "there's someone here asking about the painting. He says it's urgent." Michael's brow furrowed. "Who?" The staffer hesitated. "He wouldn't give his name. But he said you'd understand once you saw him." A pulse of unease moved through the room. Emily felt it too, tightening her grip on the armrest. Michael thanked the staffer and closed the door again, slower this time, as if trying to keep something out. He turned to her. "Emily, the person who sold me that painting never told me how he got it. I always assumed he picked it up at some estate sale or storage auction. But now—" He stopped, considering his next words carefully. "Now I'm wondering if there's more to it. Emily swallowed. Someone came here for it? Michael nodded. His voice dropped. And that worries me. The air thickened between them. Emily felt the weight of old memories pressing against her ribs. Men from the agency taking children overnight, foster parents who disappeared without goodbyes, belongings lost in transitions no one explained. She didn't know what to fear, but fear rose anyway. Michael straightened suddenly, his tone shifting from uncertainty to resolve. I want to help you, he said, but I need to understand everything. Do you remember anyone at the orphanage who might have taken your drawings? Anyone who had access? Emily searched her mind, images flickering like film frames, cold hallways, rotating staff, volunteers who came and went with the seasons. But then a face emerged, blurred at first, then sharpening. A visiting art teacher with kind eyes and a habit of collecting abandoned projects for safekeeping. A man who once told her she had something rare, then vanished 2 weeks later. She whispered, "There was someone, but I don't know his full name." Before Michael could ask for more, the doorknob rattled. Not a hesitant knock this time, but a forceful turn, as if the person on the other side had run out of patience. Emily froze. Michael's jaw tightened. "Stay here," he murmured. The door swung open. The door opened with a sharp swing, hitting the stopper on the wall. Emily flinched instinctively. A tall man stepped inside, his coat damp from the cold winter night, droplets sliding from the fabric onto the gallery's polished floor. He wasn't one of the patrons. His hair was graying at the temples, his movements stiff, the way someone moved when carrying years of unspoken regret. Michael was the first to speak. "Sir, this is a private conversation." The man ignored him. His eyes, deep-set, searching, almost desperate, moved immediately to Emily. She shifted back in her chair, unsure whether to stand or run. Something in his expression made the air in the room sharpen. "Emily," he said softly, as if testing the name against his memory. Her pulse stumbled. "Do I know you?" He exhaled shakily. "You wouldn't remember. You were too young." Michael stepped between them, protective but composed. "Who are you?" The man swallowed hard. "My name is Jonathan Hale. I used to volunteer at St. Adelaide." His gaze flickered back to Emily. "I taught art there, once a week." Emily's breath hitched. The blurred face from her childhood sharpened further. The warm laugh, the gentle way he held a paintbrush, the promise that creativity could be a kind of escape. It all sat just out of reach, like a memory underwater. Jonathan continued, voice heavy. "The night a pipe burst in the art room, they were going to throw everything away, paintings, drawings, projects the kids made. I tried to save what I could." His hands trembled slightly. "I kept some. I shouldn't have. But you..." His voice cracked. "You had something special." Emily stared at him, unable to form words. Michael's expression tightened. "You sold her work." Jonathan shook his head violently. "No, never. I gave them to a friend to store when I moved out of the city. He promised to keep them safe. Years later, I found out he sold boxes from his storage unit without even opening them." His jaw clenched. "Including hers." Emily felt the world tip. Anger, betrayal, confusion, all rising at once. "You kept my paintings without asking." Jonathan flinched at her tone, not because it was harsh, but because it carried the weight of a childhood no one had protected. "I thought I was preserving them," he whispered. "But I failed you." Michael glanced between them, tension slicing the room. "Then we need to find out exactly what else was taken, and who profited from it." Emily felt her breath waver as Jonathan reached into his coat, pulling out a small, weathered folder. Jonathan placed the worn folder on Michael's desk as if it were something fragile, something alive. The edges were frayed, the paper softened by years of handling. Emily stared at it, unable to breathe evenly. A folder shouldn't have power, but this one did. Michael stepped closer, cautious, then looked to her for permission. She gave a small nod. Jonathan opened it with trembling fingers. Inside lay several sheets of old sketch paper, warped slightly by time. Colors had faded, pencil lines smudged, but the drawings still held the unmistakable energy of a child trying to understand the world. Emily leaned forward slowly, her breath hitching as she lifted the top one. A crooked sun in the corner, a house with windows too big, a field of red strokes so intense it felt like emotion spilling over the edges. She traced one line with her fingertip, her voice barely audible. "I remember this." Jonathan swallowed hard. "I kept them because they meant something to me. Every kid drew houses and sons, but your lines were different. I thought one day you'd want them back." Emily didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on the drawings, emotions rising in layers she couldn't separate. Gratitude, violation, grief, longing. Michael exhaled. These match the style of the painting almost perfectly. He flipped another page, studying it with new respect. "Emily, this is evidence. If someone profited from your work without permission, you may have rights to everything that was taken." Emily's head lifted, confusion tightening her brow. "Rights? I never had anything that belonged to me." Jonathan stepped back, guilt etched across his face. "I tried to return them years later. I went back to St. Adelaide, but you were gone. No one would tell me where." Her shoulders sagged. "They moved me around a lot." Silence settled, a heavy, aching one. Then Michael spoke, more firmly than before. "Emily, we can trace the chain of ownership. We can find exactly who sold that storage box. And if that painting is truly your—" He paused, meeting her eyes. "Its value is far greater than what the gallery paid." Emily blinked, stunned. "Value?" He nodded. "You may not know this, but the piece has been appraised at nearly $80,000. The room tilted. For the first time in years, Emily felt the ground shift beneath her, but not from fear, from possibility. Emily stood slowly, the weight of Michael's words pressing into her chest like a second heartbeat. $80,000, more money than she had ever imagined touching, more money than any cleaning shift could provide in a lifetime. She looked at the painting, its raw strokes, its uneven layers, the fear and hope of a child frozen in color, and wondered how something created in loneliness could suddenly matter so much. Michael watched her carefully. "Emily, this could change everything for you." She shook her head slightly. "I don't even know what everything means. I've never had anything to lose, or anything to claim." Jonathan stepped forward then, guilt softening into something more vulnerable. "You have your name," he said quietly. "And now, you have proof of what you created. I know I failed you. I kept what wasn't mine, but I want to fix what I can." Emily met his eyes for the first time. Her voice had a new steadiness. "Then help me understand what happened." Her hands trembled but didn't hide. "Help me see the whole truth." Jonathan nodded, his breath shaking with relief. "I'll work with Michael. We'll trace the storage sale. We'll contact the collector. You won't do this alone." For a moment, Emily didn't speak. She walked toward the painting, the hum of the gallery lights filling the silence. She lifted her hand and hovered it an inch from the canvas. Touching would damage it, Michael had said earlier, but the closeness was enough. She could feel the years between her and the child she had been collapsing like fragile scaffolding. "I used to think my life had no direction," she murmured. "Like everything that happened just happened to me. No purpose, no pattern." Her voice thinned, tender but fierce. "But this feels like something that found its way back." Michael approached her gently. "It's more than that. It's your story, and you deserve ownership of it." Emily's eyes glistened, but she didn't wipe the tears. She let them fall quietly. A faint laugh escaped her, breathy and disbelieving. A maid who finds her childhood painting in a gallery. She shook her head. "If someone told me this at the bus stop in New York last week, I would have thought they were crazy." Jonathan smiled softly. "Life sometimes gives us the smallest thread, and suddenly we find ourselves holding the whole tapestry." Emily turned toward both men, a steadiness blooming in her chest. "Then let's begin," she said. "Let's reclaim what was taken." Michael nodded with quiet resolve. "And let's make sure the world knows who painted it." Emily inhaled slowly, her first full breath in years, as the possibility of a new life unfolded before her like an unopened canvas. Months later, the gallery looked different, not because of renovations, but because a new plaque now hung beside the once-forgotten painting, Emily Torres, age 6. Visitors paused in front of it with a quiet reverence, sensing the story behind the brushstrokes, even if they didn't know every detail. Emily stood in the center of the room, no longer in her cleaning uniform, but in a simple navy dress Michael had insisted she choose for the exhibition. Her hands still trembled sometimes, but not from fear, only from the enormity of seeing her childhood reclaimed in front of her. The investigation had confirmed everything. The storage sale had been careless, the transactions unrecorded, and the painting's journey from forgotten box to gallery wall had been a chain of small acts of negligence. But Michael fought for her. Jonathan testified for her, and slowly the truth found its place. The painting was legally hers, along with the sketches, the rights, and, unexpectedly, the opportunity to work at the community center, where Michael funded a small art program for children like she once was. Emily accepted without hesitation. Helping others create what she was once denied felt like the quiet redemption her heart had long chased. Jonathan visited often, carrying the weight of years but lighter now that honesty had been spoken. Sometimes they talked about the past, other times they simply sat in the art room, surrounded by the smell of paint, letting silence do the mending. Emily forgave him, not in a dramatic moment, but in small gestures, shared conversations, and the simple truth that people who made mistakes could still choose kindness afterward. On the gallery wall, the painting glowed under the warm lights. Emily approached it one last time before closing. She reached out, her hand hovering just above the rough texture, grateful not only for the recognition, but for the second chance that had revealed her own worth. A life once scattered now had shape, color, and purpose. She smiled gently, locking the doors behind her, carrying with her the unwavering belief that even forgotten stories could find their way home, and that kindness, dignity, and forgiveness could turn an old wound into a place where new beginnings grow. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this heart-touching story. Tell us in the comments which moment touched you the most. Subscribe and turn on the bell to receive more stories that inspire and transform. Leave a like if you believe in the invisible strength of kindness, dignity, and family. And thank you for being part of this community that believes in stories with soul.